Good morning and welcome to Smooth 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. It's time for Freshly Pressed 981. Of course, this is where we take you through detailed analysis of stories making rounds in the dailies. And as always, of course, this Friday, leading us through conversations, we've got Lakule with us in the studio, who's been irregular this week. Good morning, Lakule. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Mr. Baker. Good
Yes.
morning, good morning, Lagos. It's good to be here for the record third time
Yes,
this week.
yes. Record third time. Good to have you here. Also, Fidel, good to have you here this morning. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Kaide. Good morning, Lakone. Good morning, Lagos.
Lagos. You can be a part of our conversation. Reach out to us on WhatsApp platform 0809 And also, please catch the YouTube live stream. It's youtube.com/smooth91FM Lagos. And finally, we're taking messages on Twitter as well. The Twitter handle is at smooth981FM, of course, and you can use the hashtag freshly pressed 981. So let's jump right into the stories. And I'm going to start with you, Fidel. Let's take the story from this day newspaper. Okay, so this one talks about the CBN adopting measures to mitigate looming food crisis. So the Central Bank of Nigeria has adopted strategies to mitigate impending crisis occasioned by the crisis in Russia and Ukraine. And the CBN governor, that's Mr. Godwin Emefiele, disclosed this in Kaduna on Thursday during the unveiling of the second maize pyramids under the CBN Maize Association of Nigeria and under the Anchor Boroughs program. Fido, please talk us through the story.
Okay. Yeah. This is kudos to the CBN. The governor of the CBN was ably represented by I think Mr. Philip Yila Yusuf. So we've been hearing a lot about the Anchor Boroughs program, and this is another initiative where the CBN is collaborating with the Ministry of Agriculture and, stepping into the agricultural sector because without finance, agriculture cannot move to where we want it to be from that subsistence angle. And then we see now that we have to understand that apart from any form of crisis, oil shortages or even electricity, food, when there's a food crisis, it's a problem because I mean that's how you have uprisings and a serious crisis when people are hungry. So here we are seeing that the CBN is reassuring people that we have or we are building our maize reserves. So this is the backstory here. Um, Brazil, Argentina, top two producers and exporters of maize.
Yes.
And after Brazil and Argentina, you have Russia and Ukraine. And guess what? Russia and Ukraine are in a crisis. But I don't recall the Russia. I mean, for Ukraine, it's a bit dicey, but I don't recall that Russia saying that they're not going to do trade or they're not going to. I think it's only with hostile countries,
Okay.
right? And even at that, they have always said that fine, they're going to trade, but they want to trade in rubles. And I don't know why the world insists on trading in dollars. Okay, but I mean that's a story for another day anyway. But the point is, the CBN is reassuring Nigerians that we have enough maize supply. I hope we see that in other
They're saying that
produce.
they're financing as much as 600,000 hectares, as the farming season approaches. And I think it's a step in the right direction. But, we see the CBN now intervening in many areas, not just in the food sector. And someone mentioned yesterday, I think one of the analysts on Freshly Pressed side, is this sustainable? Because where is all these monies? Where are they getting it from? It is the CBN, yes, but then um, do we see financial strain at some point in time? Because if they're putting their hands in every sector, then it seems as though at some point in time there will be a financial strain for them.
So the important thing is this: the initiative of the CBN is supposed to bring ROI, and even the CBN governor reinstated that this is a loan. Okay, so we are first off, the farmers are expected to pay back, right? Secondly, when they pay back, they are going to trade, and when they trade, we're going to see revenue being generated, and then there's going to be taxes. Now, perhaps there's a concern of a strain, but I think it's a risk that Nigeria should be willing to
Willing to take as far
To
as
be
food
honest,
is
yes.
concerned. All right. 0809 That's the number to call to be a part of our conversation. Let's move on real quick and let's talk about the next story here. Pengasan seeks improved access to Forex. This comes to you, Lakmali. According to the story, worried about the recent developments in the downstream sector and myriads of issues plaguing the Nigerian economy. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff, Association of Nigeria has stated that the non-availability of forex was largely responsible for the recent fuel scarcity experienced in the country. And I deliberately circled that bit when I wanted to highlight this part. So they're saying that FX is generally what's causing the fuel scarcity. They're trying to get FX. But what do you make of the story?
Okay, my first comment would be that I don't know if Mr. Osifo, who is the president of Pengasan, is an economist, or if Pengasan has a team of economists that advises them. I'm also not an economist, okay? So if both of us are not, then I can say that I also largely disagree with his position that Forex is the reason we have these things. We know why we have these things.
Okay.
We know the reason. We don't have to be talking about it.
Why do we have these things?
We will not live here if we start talking about them one by one.
Okay.
Okay, we have 4 refineries in this country. They are not working.
Okay.
They spend money every year in our budgets to say that they are, what's that thing they call? Turnaround maintenance. They are fixing them. They are turning it around to maintain, blah, blah, blah. They pay salaries to people in there, and it's not working. We have one we just spoke about yesterday. We have what we call theft, oil theft, that is going on here. We have the conspiracy between everybody in the industry to take advantage of Nigeria in these things. We have the issue of the undocumented. We don't even know the number of
barrels
of what we produce. We don't even know the number of what we consume on a daily basis. So those itself are the problem. So you want the CBN to give you an open what's it called pocket to continue to give you money for things you cannot account for. I mean, the other day they said it was 30 million. From 30 million in 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we jumped to 90 million. How? Milliliters of PMS on a monthly basis, on a daily basis. Now there's also the issue of the documentation itself that's even done. There's a subsidy already for the government on what you even bring in. Yeah. So you also want to be subsidized, I think, in terms of what you get to buy these things. I thought they said, go and buy. When you buy, bring the cost. We'll pay you the balance so that you can have what is fair to you, which you have agreed. So I'm not certain that the issue we should be looking at is availability of forex. This last one, we're told that it was because some adulterated fuel got into Nigeria, 100 million liters of it. Yes. That's all we're told. That's what's the reason for this current one we're just coming out of. So how is forex related to adulterated fuel, for example? So I think that sometimes we just want to speak because we need to speak, and then we need to be careful what we say so that these kind of things, we don't start to put not too interesting comments out there, half-truths and not so correct statements. That's my opinion about it.
All right, thank you so much for that. We've got a few messages here. First one in from Yinka Bulu. He says, I beg, Anko Bora's program, they doled out for rice farmers. Have they paid back? Another bonanza about to go down. And, the questions there. This one from Ned. He says, the CBN have been intervening in main sectors of all of which are failing. The focus is on results, not merely saying they are pumping out collective money into something with zero performance. And Amaka comes in to say, all right, okay. So there are more messages here. This one here says the reason why you have fuel shortage is due to FX issues combined with supply challenges in the market. That's the simple answer. FX is really in relation to diesel and the LPG. All right, no name to that, but please, we'd appreciate when you add your name to the comments so we can acknowledge you when we read your messages. But let's move on real quick. Let's talk about PVCs. Okay, so over 1 million PVCs still uncollected in Lagos since 2019. And, this comes to you, Lakunle. So the Independent National Electoral Commission in Lagos State in Lagos, here in Lagos State on Thursday, said that no less than over 1 million permanent voters cards printed prior to the 2019 general elections were still yet to be collected in the state. Luckily, what could be the cause of this? Is it that people are not interested? Is it that people don't know how to go about collecting these cards? What exactly is the problem?
Um, well, I should say that it's a combination of those two things you've just mentioned and maybe many more. Until recent, when we had this continuous voters registration, and we've had people give testimonies of how easily they registered and got their cards and so on and so forth. A lot of people have actually given up that they don't want me to vote. That's why I've not got. I knew what I went through in 2015 to get my PVC. Okay, so if let's assume those of us who went through those struggle in 2015 and were not successful as a part of this, because this story says that these cards are ones prior to 2019 elections, about over 1 million of them, and they have been printed. And it's also the same story. It says that about 6 million PVCs were collected by the owners just before the general elections of 2019. Now, if we look at that number, my concern, the general elections in 2019 in Lagos, only about 946,000 people voted to elect a governor.
Okay.
And 75% of them voted for the party that won, and about 25 voted for the other major party. In 2015, it was about 1.5 million people that voted in that election. 88% voted for the party that won, and about 11%. So these numbers are not even reflective of the number of people who had PVCs as at 2015.
So in general, you're
So
trying to say
so
that maybe
so
people
there's
are
a
losing
general
interest.
exactly there's a general apathy about voting in itself, not to even talk about owning the card. A lot of us who even have the cards, you will hear people say, let me go and collect it in case sometime in the future they will ask me to present it for something I want to benefit from. So, and it's at this point and opportunities like this that we need to tell our people, you need to participate in at least one level of these exercises. If you don't want to join a party, participate in the elections and vote. If you and in fact, it is almost like it should be a religious obligation for us to make sure that we vote. It is very important that we do that, and we need to. Without participating, we won't have any excuse to blame whoever gets into those positions that we complain about.
All right. The INEC resident electoral commissioner, Mr. Olusegun Agbaje, he said that he wants to use the opportunity. I mean, the quote here says he wants to use the opportunity to urge all those that are yet to collect their PVCs to go to the INEC offices in the LGAs who are registered, where they registered to do so. And also, he said all PVCs issued by INEC are valid to be used in all the elections conducted by INEC, including the 2023 general elections.
Perfect.
So let's move on real quick though. Let's move on to our next story. And this story comes to you, Fidel. Let's talk about court sacking. Okay, so INEC suspends action against on Umahi's defection. And of course, they've cited the reasons. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission on Thursday said it won't take any action on the court judgment sacking Dave Umahi as governor of Ebonyi State over his defection from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressive Congress in 2020. Now, you remember that we talked about this. We had earlier reported that the Federal High Court in Abuja removed the governor, his deputy, and lawmakers over their defection from PDP to APC. The court also directed INEC to replace the elected officials with names from the PDP. But it feels as though nothing is changing here. So, what exactly is going on?
I mean, yeah. So there's been a judgment to an order of court to have the governor replaced, as well as his deputy and I think 16 members of the state house, given that they have all defected to APC, and these seats or these positions are supposed to be for PDP candidates. So
okay.
The court has also directed that PDP candidates replace these
they should just take names and replace them.
I mean, it's a lot, and the way we go about these things. I read the story, and like 12 court processes have been served on INEC, and I mean, I don't blame them. They're overwhelmed. they're overwhelmed, So yes, I think if there's a stay of execution and all that, the electoral body just has to wait until there's a decisive or there's a superior court decision.
And how long is this wait going to be? And even when the wait, even if there's it, how long is this wait going to be?
So I mean, it's there's supposed to be, I think, 30 days or 90 days between when this appeal should be entered and whatnot.
Okay.
But the most important thing here is when a a matter like this comes before the appellate court has to decide on it as quickly as possible, because whether we like it or not, you have administrative issues that are going to be, would I say, distorted or in the state because of what is happening. Because I mean, the governor is distracted. He's distracted, and his people are the lawmakers. There's the executive arm that's distracted. There's the legislative arm that's distracted. So we just hope that the appellate court decides on this as swiftly as possible without crushing justice.
All right, let's move on real quick. I got a few messages here. This one in from Bola. He says the world trades in the U.S. dollars because it's a transparently managed, backed by the world's largest economy and democracy. You can't compare Russian ruble or Chinese yen to the euro. And of course, the euro dollar is another debate entirely. EK Peter comes in to say on the CBN maize pyramid, it's worrisome. These monies don't actually get to the intended beneficiaries. During COVID, a huge scam was allotted to the I guess road, yeah, that's what you're trying to say, road transportation sector, and none of the popular transport companies got that intervention. An independent survey should be carried out, and you'd be shocked. This one here comes in from comes from BDA, from like he says, good morning all. Access to goods from Ukraine and Russia is through the Black Sea. Currently, it's one of the battlefronts, and cargo vessels have already suffered collateral damage. So naturally, there would be issues with supply from the region. The launch of the Dangote fertilizer plant is a major boost for the Nigerian economy. Nigeria needs to think export, export, export. Leading economies keep a close watch on their balance of trade, which with each and every country, and try to ensure it's a surplus each time. And also, this one here coming in says, please don't blame people for not voting when the government cares less about the people's security for going out to vote their preferred candidates. Many ballot boxes were snatched from people, locked in due to Togri in Okota/Festac area during the last governorship elections. What happened thereafter? Anyone arrested? Was anyone arrested or prosecuted? All right, thank you so much for that. Let's move on to our next story. This one talks about safety still. Okay, so the governor has expressed concern over the state. All right, thank you so much for that. Let's move on to our next story. This one talks about safety still. Okay, so the governor has expressed concern over the state of security, and I'm coming to you with this one, Fidel. Okay, so rising from the third virtual meeting this year, governors in the country yesterday expressed concerns around insecurity and concerns of the governors. So what exactly is the way forward from here on out?
I mean, it's these concerns are valid, and I just believe at this point in time we have to again shift our gaze from the center, or not always look at the center, and that is, I mean, it is only fair that the governors stand up and be more responsible. They're talking about issues like food security again, insecurity, and basic infrastructure, and just ease of doing business for small and medium enterprises. And we see that. I mean, it's virtual, but we see that if our governors are not pushing for the people, there's very little we can achieve. There's very little the center can do. So yeah, I mean, I don't see, looking at the story, I don't see much being done. I just see a lot of alarms. I see a lot of complaints and plans. There's not much action, but I mean, yeah, our governors need to take more responsibility.
But do you think anything can be? It's an election year. It's a pre-election year. Do you think anything can be done between now and when the next administration comes in? Do you think anything can be done? Because food security. There's insecurity in parts of the north. Generally in Nigeria. So I mean, can anything be done?
It's worrisome. I mean, can something be done? Yes, but in practice, let's be honest. Most of these guys are thinking of those who want to return, how to return. Those who are going, how can their people get nominated by the parties they belong to? So, and then we cannot deny the fact that even resources are going to be redirected to places where it will count, for them, So I doubt in practice, I doubt. Can something be done in the idea? Yes.
All right. Let's move on to our next story. This one talks about 14 Nigerian states seeking $15 billion in investments from the UAE. Now, 14 Nigerian states are seeking foreign direct investment up to 15 billion from businesses and organizations from the United Arab Emirates, and will be pitching their proposals to investors at the forthcoming 11th annual investment meeting. This is in Dubai. Do we see progress in this regard?
The same old story, same. If you look at the 14 states that are listed here, that's where I'm going to pick from. I think like 10 of them have governors who are ending the second of their 8-year tenure, of their 2 4-year tenures next year. So they take, let's assume that they go for this meeting and these things are successful. So do they get the money in bulk? So what happens between now and the period they hand over? Then we hear the same old story when the new person comes and says, I met an empty treasury. Because just a recent example, a governor was just sworn in last week. I'm already hearing stories about what was not
300 million and
exactly. So that's my first worry about this. Now, when we go to look at all the things that each of the states they want to use the money for, it's the same things we've had them say they want to do with money all the time. About 2 weeks ago, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics gave us a list of indebtedness of the states. And I recall that one of my friends from Governor Umahi's state, I think, and which state is that? Ebonyi State, was boasting to me that my state is the least indebted state in Nigeria. They had 42 billion in debts. Okay, so if Ebonyi has 42, so imagine what the other states have. And then when you hear that Nigeria is owing $67 billion, people think it's the federal government. These monies that this state government are owing is part of that $67 billion. And so that's where the problem is. We need to make our governors more accountable for things. For example, primary health education, basic education is supposed to be in the hands of local governments. Primary health in the hands of the state government. The monies they get from Abuja, okay, let's assume they use it to pay salaries. The taxes that the few of us that pay taxes pay, where does it go to? The ones they arrest us on the road for traffic, for whatever, all over the place that they collect, where does it go to? So we need to follow all these monies and hold this governor accountable to how they spend all these monies. I don't have a problem with taking loans.
Okay, so we can take loans, but not this one.
No, I'm saying I don't have a problem with taking loans. We can take loans. We need to make them accountable for what they take.
So, in one word, I want to know now. This $15 billion investment loan that we're looking to get now, is not a wise idea. It's a wise idea.
In my opinion, it is not a wise idea at this time. Yes, we say government is a continuum, but every time there is a break, a transfer of power from one individual to the other, the next person says, "I did not meet anything." So why are you taking a loan at the twilight of your administration?
All right. Thank you so much for that. 0809-444-0981. Don't forget, we're also streaming live on YouTube. So let's head on down to our YouTube page. You can leave your comments there if you want to share with us your thoughts. Okay, but going back to some of the messages here. This one here from Obi Michael. He says, it is not about having the PVC and also voting. It's not just about having the PVC and also voting that's the problem. It's just that people are tired and they feel their votes does not count, and that does not count even before the election. They already have their winners of the elections, and that other gathering for the election is just a show. And well, that's
let me quickly say something. That it is because we think if our votes don't count, they will not bother coming to campaign to us in the first instance. And then because we have this perception that it does not count, that's why in places where they rig, the riggings are successful. So if we go out there to go and vote, rigging, I'm not saying there will still be rigging, but it will be more difficult. So let us even do our own part first before we blame the next person for not doing his or our own part.
Can I just weigh in, because elections and voting is really an integral part of our democracy.
Absolutely.
Our votes count, please, and I encourage everyone to go and get their PVC. Now, I do appreciate that in areas like Okota and Festac, where one of the commentators said, there are actual calculated attempts to cause chaos, to scare people away. Now, in that aspect, I will call on such communities and good policemen in such communities come together during the times of election. Come and make sure there is order in that area where you vote. But please, your vote counts. If not, they wouldn't be making so much attempts to cause chaos.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Let's talk about the Electoral Act, since we're already speaking about votes now. Okay, so the House insists that Section 84 is still alive, heads to court next week. This is your story, Fido. What do you make of it?
I mean, yes, indeed, it's an electoral act, so it's a law. So indeed, it's a working document, and INEC will be working with the document. The speaker was briefing, I think, men of the press, and assuring them that the act is still is a working document. And yes, there are controversies around. I think
They're
Section
talking about
84
waiting
sub.
for a day waiting for a number of days to appeal. So what's that about?
So I mean, like we said, they have 90 days, right? They have 90 days. I mean, the process of compiling records and all that might take some time, and he's just assuring people that they're doing the best they can. If they could be in the appellate court the next day or the next week, of course they will. But I mean, there are procedures, there are documents to be filed, and there are papers that should be in front of the justices before they can address the matter. For context, there are issues around who is a public servant and who is a political appointee, and whether the Electoral Act addresses public servants or just political appointees. But since it's a matter before the court, let's wait and see what the court decides.
All right, our final story here talks about the police going on strike. So this one here from Premium Time says, I pray you'll not be found guilty of mutinies. This is according to the DIG. So Johnson Kukumo, Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Southwest, has advised police officers to be professional and shun any strike which could lead to mutiny. Now, the story is quite, it's quite long, but you know what, because of our time, let's just quickly, in a sentence, yes, both of you, in a sentence, what is this about, and just walk us through the story, basically, in a sentence.
I think that's a sign of the times, and this is a dangerous sign of what is happening in the country. And I pray truly, as the DIG said, that our police don't go on strike. We appeal to you, whatever it is that's the problem. You have your proper channels of registering whatever it is that's the problem. Please use them. We need you to keep us secured. Thank you.
In my opinion, I am happy that the police has woken up, right? And I believe there is a need for our policemen to be aware of our society, and at the same time aware of things that are happening. However, we must ensure that our policemen are happy, because they are the only ones licensed to carry weapons apart from the armed forces. And in that case, we must make them, okay, because there is a lot of mental health around a man who is not properly taken care of. So the DIG should also ensure that our policemen, all those in the top echelon of the police, ensure that our policemen are well taken care of.
All right, thank you so much, guys. You can find our analysts up on social media and take on the conversation, continue the conversations with them across all social media platforms. First, we're at Smooth 91 FM across all platforms, and you can follow Fidel on at Izotene on Twitter, and also at Lacole70 on Twitter as well. There's more to come. In a few more minutes, it will be time for the locker room. That's at 8:15. And then Lagos Talks 91. We've got a very interesting topic we would like to share with you. So please stay with us.
You first. First bang.
I feel like I wish I was more controversial.
Yeah,
I
allow me to
always
say what I want to
strive
say
to
on
be
that
politically
story.
correct.
Because of the time now. This is why sometimes I
Maybe
always
that's
like,
why we should have taken that story first. Really,
Let
that
me get your
story.
tip on it. Eh?
Probably should